Hello, my friends. Hello, and welcome once again to the suddenly festive Vaughn Manor, where Roger and I have returned for my weekend reading report. It's time for my weekend reading report. It's been a couple weeks since I've done this because I've been so busy I haven't been able to read as much as I would have liked. But I am here to talk about the stuff that I have read since the last time I did one of these. And I finished a couple things. First thing I finished is this wonderful book by Howard Andrew Jones. This is The City of Marble and Blood, a sword and sorcery novel. Book 2 in the Chronicles of Hanuvar. This is the sequel to Lord of a Shattered Land, and it's every bit as good as Lord of a Shattered Land. I don't know how many, I can't remember. Howard Andrew Jones has said how many books I think there were going to be in this series. I think he did, but I can't remember. Was it 5? Was he doing 5 books? I don't know. But we've got more books coming in this series, The Chronicles of Hanuvar, and I look forward to them because they're awesome. I'm going to do a whole video on this book because it was awesome, and it's got a really cool cover too. As sword and sorcery novels should. The City of Marble and Blood. So that's the first thing that I actually finished this week, or this past couple weeks. Well, I did just finish it this week. So yeah, there you go. That was excellent. And now I am reading this book. This is Wilkie Collins' No Name. So this is the final book for Roger's Cheap Old Book Club that I'm reading this year, 2023. Thank goodness this crappy year is almost over. I'm very happy about 2023 coming to a close. And I'm finishing it off with No Name by Wilkie Collins. At least this is the last book in Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. Hopefully I will still have time to read 1 or 2 more books this month. We'll see. But this has been an interesting book so far. Wilkie Collins, he was, a big pal of Charles Dickens. I do, in a lot of ways, prefer Wilkie Collins, although Charles Dickens was probably, almost certainly a better writer. Wilkie Collins is fun. He's kind of fun. He has goofy characters in the same way Charles Dickens did, but even goofier. I mean, he fills his books full of eccentric characters and plots full of surprises and weirdness. This book is a little different. The one big secret that was contained in this book was revealed fairly early on. And now it's just a matter of finding out what the main character is going to do about it. Our main character, No Name, has no name because this book points out the injustice of the laws of Victorian England when it comes to women. Wilkie Collins was good at that. And Wilkie Collins often pointed out the injustices that were present in society in his novels. In this case, our main character has no name or no right to a name because her father and her mother were not married when she was born, at the time she was born. So when her father and mother both pass away, she's not entitled to any inheritance, according to the law back in these olden days. All the money goes to a different relative. She gets nothing. She gets nothing. Her and her sister. Both of them have no name. And so, yeah, Magdalene. Magdalene is the main character of this book. And Magdalene is actually a really interesting character. She's tough and she's got a great ability to disguise herself, and she's a great actress. She has all these cool talents, which she is using in her mission to get her money back from her evil uncle, who's a real jerk. So it's interesting. Wilkie Collins does this thing where he's kind of mixing up, and he's deliberately doing this, all of the heavy emotional stuff and the heavy tragedy along with comedy, mostly through his eccentric characters. It doesn't always seem to work. I'm only that far into the book. What is that? About a third? Maybe almost half. Anyway, it doesn't always work, which makes it so far kind of a mixed bag. But I do want to know where it's going. It does keep your interest, even though there are times when you're like, what the hell are you doing, Wilkie Collins? Why are you going off on this ridiculous tangent with this? Anyway, it's a good book. Not one of his best books, I think, but I will reserve final judgment until I have finished reading it. So I'm reading this right now. After that, I'm going to jump on board with The Winter of Windom. Windom, now I know that Windom is actually the proper way to pronounce this guy's name, John Wyndham, which is what I thought it was, Roger. I thought it was. It's Windom. So, John Wyndham's The Midwich Cuckoos, which is a book I have never read. John Wyndham, who wrote another fantastic book, which I have right up here, The Day of the Triffids. The Day of the Triffids is one of my favorite books. But for some reason I've never read The Midwich Cuckoos, so I'm going to read this. The Winter of Windom, a reading event created by Books, Songs, and Other Magic. Every month in winter, you read a John Wyndham book. And for this month, this is the one, The Midwich Cuckoos. And look at that creepy cover. That's pretty cool. I have a few editions of this book for some reason, and I've never read it, but I'm going to read this one. This old Ballantine paperback. Yeah, there we go. Going to read this in the nearish future. I have also finished this book. I finished Thor, To Wake the Mangog. So I'm reading every issue of Thor from the initial run of Thor, which ran from the early 60s into the mid 90s. And I'm into the 1970s now. And I finished this one. This is all the comics of Thor from 1968 to 1970. Really awesome because this is Stan Lee and Jack Kirby at the top of their game. It's really cool stuff. I've really been enjoying Thor so far. I have noticed that when it comes to Thor, as awesome as it is, and it is awesome, there are some things about it. Like, Stan Lee repeats himself a lot. You'll find a lot of plot lines repeating themselves over and over again. Like, Odin gets pissed off at Thor and takes away half of Thor's power. I mean, the first time Odin took away half of Thor's power, to punish him for stupid reasons. First of all, Odin, the all-wise all-father, Odin, he's supposed to be all-wise, but a lot of times Odin's kind of a dumbass. He strikes me very often as being kind of a dumbass. And Thor, I love Thor. He's also not the brightest. I mean, he's no Reed Richards. Let's just say that. But Odin, he could just be annoying. Anyway, Odin takes away half of Thor's power. And the first time he took away half of Thor's power, Stan Lee forgot to give it back. He never gave it back. But he just got it back without it being mentioned, I guess, at some point. And then he took away half of Thor's power again later on, And then Odin has to go into the Odin sleep every once in a while. He has to go to sleep in order to regain his powers and remain immortal. I don't know why, if he's all-powerful, but he does. He has to go into the Odin sleep once in a while. And every time he does that, Loki is ready to pounce and take over Asgard. And he does this a couple times. And it's like you'd think, okay, Odin's going to sleep. We should prepare for Loki. Because obviously Loki is going to try to take over Asgard as soon as Odin goes to sleep. Because he's done it before, right? We should make preparations. They don't. And he just takes over Asgard again. Or invades Asgard or something. And then Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. I don't know how to pronounce Thor's hammer's name. I have to watch that movie again because I think maybe they pronounced it in the movie, but it's been years since I've seen it. It's been a long time since I've seen any of those Marvel movies. They kind of went, but I like the first Thor movie. I remember that being pretty good, but it's been a while. Maybe if I watched it now, it would suck. I don't know. Anyway, I think they pronounced Mjolnir in that movie, and I can't remember how to pronounce it right now. Anyway, this this hammer of Thor, every time you need like a new power to get yourself out of a scrape, Thor's hammer suddenly has this power. Like, it'll just have powers that have never been mentioned before. Like, oh, I need to turn back time or something. My hammer can do it. It's never done it before, but now it will. You know, it's like that. It's Thor's hammer endlessly has new powers as Stan Lee needed them to. But now, after I finished this, which was awesome, now I'm reading The Fall of Asgard. Look, it's Loki. Odin must have gone to sleep and Loki took over Asgard. How about that? Nobody saw that coming. Anyway, I'm reading this one. This is volume 5, 1970 to 1971. So, Thor, up until the year I was born. And so this is great. The last issue that Jack Kirby drew is in here. This is the end of Jack Kirby's run. The very last issue that Jack Kirby drew seemed a little phoned in, like it wasn't his best work. And then we have a couple weird issues by Neil Adams. And let's see if I could find that, because the Neil Adams stuff is kind of strange. Yeah, this is the Neil Adams issue. And, you know, Neil Adams is really good, but I don't know. His Thor issues were a little awkward and odd. But then Big John Buscema steps in and takes over, and John Buscema is just amazing. John Buscema is just an incredible artist, and he's wonderful on Thor. Big John Buscema is wonderful on Thor. So we're getting the beginning of John Buscema. We also see the end of Stan Lee's run on Thor as a writer, and Jerry Conway takes over, I think. Let me see. By the end of this, yeah, we have Jerry Conway as writer and John Buscema as the artist on Thor. So as of this epic collection, we have seen the end of Jack Kirby and Stan Lee on Thor. What a wonderful run it was, though. So yeah, I'm reading this right now. I probably will finish this weekend. I'll probably finish that today. Now, not too much has arrived at the manor anymore not too much is arriving at the manor anymore, because now that comic books are part of the 500 book challenge, the challenge where I have to read 500 books that I own before I'll buy any new ones, you know, not so many comic books are coming in anymore. But I did have one Epic Collection come in, an Epic Collection pre-order that I had. This is the Invincible Iron Man Epic Collection, Volume 6, The War of the Supervillains. And this is the weird period where Iron Man had a nose on his mask. And so the story goes that Stan Lee, who wasn't, you know, behind every Marvel comic at this time, he was just the overseeing editor at the time, looked at Iron Man and he says, well, shouldn't Iron Man have a nose? And, you know, the editor of Iron Man was like, why? He's like, Iron Man should have a nose. And then Stan Lee walked out. And so he's like, I guess Iron Man needs a nose. So he put a nose. They had a nose put on Iron Man's mask. And then months later, Stan Lee ended up looking at Iron Man. He's like, why does Iron Man have a nose? And they're like, well, you said to put a nose on. Take that nose off. He looks ridiculous. Oh, okay, Stan. So they took off the nose. That's the story I heard. And Iron Man does look a little ridiculous with the nose. And so yeah, he looks better without it. And so it didn't last very long. So by the end of this Epic collection, he is noseless again. So yeah, Iron Man issues from 1974 to 1976. I'll read this one day when I get around to Iron Man. And so I think that's everything for this week. I'm hoping the rest of the year I'm hoping to have a little bit more time to read for the rest of the year, but it's not looking good. You know, I don't really have any time off. I have Christmas Day off. Yeah, I think I have that. That might be it though. That might be it. Anyway, I will catch you next time.